All right, let's get right into it with Bill Livingston of the Cleveland Plain Dealer. He covered the Broncos-Browns game yesterday. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Bill is a very old and dear friend from like the 1940s. We've been friends. Bill, I want to start out the question we were just talking about. In watching the game yesterday, I'm not second guessing, I'm first guessing. The moment that Cleveland went for two, I went, this is a big mistake. You go for one until you need to do two. Your compatriot, Bud Shaw, defended the play and said that wasn't the biggest mistake. There were enough mistakes, but when you were watching that yesterday, did you go, this is the right move or this is the wrong move?
I thought it was the right move, Woody. I thought, there's no difference between 4 and 5 late in the game, I don't think. I mean, two field goals beat you at 5. If you get to 6, at least they tie you. Or if they get a touchdown, they have to make the extra point, which is not the layup that it used to be, although they still make a lot of them. I thought it was the right move. It didn't raise my eyebrows at the time, although Ian Eagle made a big deal about it, and then I got to thinking about it, and I thought it was the right move.
Okay, well, you can defend it, but I'm sitting there saying, and I go back to it, that...
Well, 8 minutes left in the game. It's not like it was in the first half that they started.
Yeah, but I'm sure the thinking was, and Mike said after the game that, nobody scored touchdowns, so we don't want them to score 2 field goals. Well, you think maybe the Broncos are going to break through at some point, which they did shortly after the interception for pick 6 for the touchdown. But you have been around this game as long as I have, or longer. Peyton Manning, to you. Let's forget about the Cleveland Browns for a second because they're forgettable, to be honest with you, as usual. What does Peyton Manning look like to you? What do you think?
He looked like Josh McCown. I mean, he looked like a. My column, which I write after the game, after everybody else has written, because I'm coming back from Ohio State all the time, was that in this dink and dunk offense, maybe it doesn't suit his skills now. Asking him to roll out and throw to half the field is something he's not good at. He's a big lumbering guy. I thought it just either screamed wrong offense or diminishing skills, which is a buzzword, as you know, in Cleveland for when Kosar started going downhill. He had a 53.3 quarterback rating. McCown had a 63.3. Both of them threw a pick 6. Both of them were just barely over 50%. To me, he was Josh McCown yesterday, which is kind of sad. If this was our last view of the great Peyton Manning, who you can argue whether he should have won more Super Bowls, but one of the great players of the last generation of the current generation in the NFL.
Let me switch gears very quickly because I know you cover Coast League college football. Ohio State, still trying to figure out who should be their starting quarterback. This looks like a Final Four team in spite of that. Speaking of quarterbacks and Peyton Manning, what is going on with Ohio State? And B, can Michigan or Michigan State actually be in the Final Four instead of Ohio State?
Well, I think Urban Meyer would not name a starter today, but I think there's almost no question it's going to be J.T. Barrett because I was surprised from the start. Even though Cardale Jones is one of ours, he's a Glenville kid, a great inner-city power here. The offense has so much more tempo, and the read option is so much more dangerous with a second, with Elliott and a quarterback who has quickness and can run. James Franklin said after the game, we couldn't get set. We couldn't keep up with their tempo when Barrett came in. That's part of it. I think people forget the Michigan State game last year when he threw for over 300 yards and completed a 46 or 7 yard pass on 3rd and 23. That was not, the receiver caught it, went out of bounds. It was right there. I don't think he has. I would be shocked if it's not J.T. Barrett at this stage.
Well, and the follow-up question is Michigan State have a possibility?
Michigan State's going to be in Columbus, and that'll be hard for them to win. Michigan is in Ann Arbor, and it's the next game. It's one of the toughest closing slates that anybody's going to face, although I'm sure Urban probably faced the 2 toughest games on this schedule. I'm sure he faced tougher than that in the SEC. Michigan won that game until Garo Yepremian tried to punt. So I think either one of them could win. I would say Michigan probably has the better chance because it's in Ann Arbor. I learned my lesson 2 years ago when the game was up there, and I thought, nothing was going right for Michigan. Brady Hoke was on the ropes. and it was 42-41. That is just a very tough game to win on the road, and it's a tough game at any time.
Bill, I want to go back to Broncos and Browns, if you don't mind. It just seemed like it was yet another typical Browns loss. I know there's this fatalistic feeling about this franchise back there, but I'm wondering, as somebody who watches from afar, what does the Cleveland Browns franchise have to do to become good again?
Well, they have to start hitting on some draft picks and free agent acquisitions, for one thing. We have Johnny Screw Up in the news again for all the wrong reasons. Two of their top free agent acquisitions, Tremont Williams gave up the 75-yard touchdown pass. They keep whiffing on just about everything. To me, the exquisite Browns moment was when they were at the Denver 41 after Manning threw an interception and left with his head bent over with his hands on his helmet. It was such an egregious play that Mingo intercepted. And the Browns lose on all 4 downs. They lose yardage. And you don't see that very often. They had a delay of game penalty on 4th down, but they pitch to their bruising inside runner on a wide sweep, and he bobbles it. What was that play all about? And then they take 2 sacks when I would think after you lost 3 yards, you might take a 3-step drop and prevent losing any more yards. And they get sacked again, and then they have the delay of game. Now you're punting the ball. It was incredible, to be at 10 yards, 12 yards from a makeable field goal and wind up in 4th and 28 without a penalty.
Bill, there are rumors that the Browns are trying to trade Johnny Manziel again. True?
It would not surprise me if it's true. I was his biggest fan last year, and he obviously soiled the bed. And this year he played pretty well in the 2 games he got a chance. But he's let's face it, a stronger organization with a history of success that has some gate attractions already on the roster, he'd have been gone. You want to tell me that Dan Reeves or Tom Landry wouldn't have cut him? That Bill Belichick wouldn't have cut him with the party 2 days before the end of a disappointing season last year with practically the whole team hanging out with Josh Gordon? I mean, it's a shame. The kid was the most electrifying player in the toughest college conference in the land, and I'm sure they thought that football meant enough to him that he'd be serious about it, but he hasn't been.
Bill, I think his future is to sit alongside Tim Tebow, and the two of them can go back and
talk about their Heismans.
Yeah, and talk about the SEC because they both played in the SEC. Bill, it's always great to know that you're still alive, and that I am too. So.
Woody, somebody, you remember Terry Lyons of the NBA?
Oh, sure, yeah.
After a couple more guys retired, he sent me a YouTube of an Allman Brothers song. Nobody left to run with anymore.
That's true.
Bill, thank you very much.
You're the best,
All
Bill.
Right.
Bill Livingston.
Thanks for having me.
Sports
guys.
columnist of the Cleveland Plain Dealer.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.